Welcome to the Unreligious live stream broadcast, podcast, whatever you want to call it. I'm Derek Day, and today I'm joined by my friend and brother, Jimmie Ligon. And if you have been around for a minute, you've met Jimmie because he's been on Freeology Friday with Aaron and myself. He's a frequent contributor to my Derek Day multimedia page, and he's been my guest on Unreligious. But today I have an announcement that I am no longer going to do the Unreligious broadcast. I'm handing this over, this franchise, this illustrious platform, to Jimmie to take over. And let me say this. I'm gonna let me give you a little bit of shine first, Jimmie, because this brother is really intelligent, highly intelligent, very articulate, very passionate, and very knowledgeable. And what he's going to do, I'm just giving you the hint, because in order to understand the full totality, you're going to have to tune in on Thursday nights. But here's the thing, that Jimmie is going to break down current events, religious practices, education, sociology, and a whole bunch of other things from the standpoint, the perspective of a sentient atheist. Now, with all that being said, I just want y'all to know that this cat has impressed me from the gate. I remember the first time you showed up in one of my feeds on the multimedia page, and I was like, wow. I said, this dude's heavy, right? And so I remember one time when Aaron and I were doing Freeology, they invited you to come on and share your thoughts about what we were talking about. And so it's been my pleasure to have met you, to start getting to know you, and to share something that and listen, y'all understand, hear me out. I don't give away anything lightly, especially when I've poured my heart and soul into it. But I've just reached a point where, I really just don't give a fuck about any of this, whether it be Christianity, Islam, there's still a part of me that's kind of tied to spirituality as an undercurrent, but not as a talking point. But Jimmie, on the other hand, Jimmie is going to get this shit and he's going to run with it. So with that being said, Jimmie, I'm going to kick it over to you and tell everybody about you, tell everybody about where you're coming from, and let us know what we're going to be talking about tonight. And I'm drinking some Hennessy. And it's actually the cheap one, the DS.
Yeah.
But it's convenient. So,
right. I appreciate the introduction, brother. Like you said, it's been a pleasure getting to know you as well. Again, I'm Jimmie Ligon. You guys can call me Jim. That's fine, or Jimmie. Doesn't matter to me. I'm coming from the standpoint of a person who was told that he was a Christian when he was a kid, and I never quite understood it. I never quite got it. It never made sense to me. But as a kid, you think, okay, I'll understand when I get older.
Yeah.
When I got older, I found myself, I'm not desiring to go to church, none of that stuff. And then what happened was later on, when I hit my 30s, I decided that I need to figure this out. So I read the Bible again, and I went, oh, this is bullshit. I get it. Okay, I got it. Because it didn't make any damn sense. Because it's like, if you read even the first book contradicts itself at least a dozen times, at least. And so I was reading, I was like, well, I know the person who wrote this didn't know anything about continuity, and they didn't understand how plots work, and they didn't understand a lot of things when they wrote this. So I chalked it up as being ancient parables and stories that were probably taken more seriously than they should have been. So I come from that standpoint where first I'm a skeptic, right? But under skepticism comes the umbrella of atheist or being an atheist, not believing in superstition, not believing in conspiracy theories, not believing in horoscopes. Like, I don't take any story anybody tells me. I don't give it any weight unless it has something that can ring, that, you know how you hear something and it rings of truth?
Yeah.
And then you look at it further and you go, oh yeah, it actually is true, or it actually, it's almost true, but it's a little skewed or whatever. Yeah. But I don't like all the things that people talk about these days. Like that, I want to talk about this real quick. Did you see the picture of that people got when the lightning struck, hit the Jesus up in Brazil? What's that thing called again? The big Jesus on the, I can't remember what it's, Christ the Redeemer. That's right, Christ the Redeemer.
Yeah.
The Christ the Redeemer statue like looms over parts of Rio, right? Mm-hmm. And it's a cool looking statue. I'll give them that. It's really iconic looking. It's cool.
Yeah.
But as far as I'm concerned, this is a statue of a made up dude. But anyway, so they had the lightning strike coming down.
Yep.
And everybody was talking about, oh, God is this and God is showing and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, so the highest thing in the area, which conducts electricity, and it's lightning outside, and it gets hit by lightning. How is that a miracle? It's like you might as well have a big giant lightning rod up there, and the same thing would have happened.
Now watch this. Watch this. If it was a miracle, that fucker would have started walking like Frankenstein's monster.
Exactly. It'd be like, yo, I have a message for everybody. Everybody would have shit on themselves. But yeah. I mean, I'm saying, that's not.
Or like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man in Ghostbusters.
Oh my God, that's funny that you say that. That's funny. So I don't really believe in that sort of thing, that nonsense. Like, if you look at my Facebook post, my Facebook page, and you look at my little blurb, like people have like a saying or whatever. Mine is, when you don't believe in things that you don't understand, you suffer. Superstition ain't the way. Quote Stevie Wonder.
Stevie Wonder. You got it.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite song lyrics because it's so true. You get all these people who get taken advantage by these faith healers and these fake preachers running around the United States. I can only speak on that because that's where I live. Yep. And they just take advantage of people's gullibility and their desire to believe, and they fleece them. They lie to them. They take advantage of them. It's rather disgusting, actually.
Yeah.
You take a look at some of these people, what they do as far as preaching to people, and you look at some of these programs they have on TV when they're like out in the crowd and they're doing the putting of hands on, and then they pull that psychic bullshit when they do the blind reading.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so fake, dude. I know exactly how that shit's done. It's so funny. You say vague things and you narrow it down until you figure out. You know what I'm saying? It's a carnival trick. It's not nothing else but a carnival trick. And people that want to believe so bad, oh my God, oh, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like going, wow, it's just amazing.
But let me ask you a question while we're here, right? What do you think makes people believe? Because I'm thinking to myself, we're in the information age. You know, we have this abundance of information. And I always say, if something that you believe can't withstand a Google search, it's not worth believing. Yet and still, people believe.
I know exactly why
that is. Okay.
Yeah, I know exactly why that happened.
Let us.
That happened for a few reasons. Number one, people really want to think it's true. First of all, you got to have that. People who believe this stuff, they want to believe it. Because if you don't want to believe it, you're not going to believe it because it's nonsense.
Yep.
And then what they do is once they have that want to in their heart, then they willfully ignore everything else because they take the story of they're lying to you. This is the real thing. They're just trying to be the devil, and they're Satan. They're driven by Satan. And just so all you Christians out there, I want you to know, we don't believe in him either. Just so you know. Yep. That's your guy. You guys believe in the devil. We think God, devil, Jesus, angels, demons, all that shit is nonsense. It's made up. It's not real. Dragons, talking donkeys, talking snakes. None of that shit is real. And by the way, Even though I think Noah's Ark is the dumbest story in the Bible, amongst a bunch of them, Lot's wife's story is pretty dumb too. So yeah, she turns into a pillar of salt. That's not how biology works. But anyway, so yeah,
Hey, who turned around to witness that she turned into a pillar of salt?
Exactly. If you turn around and look, you turn into a pillar of salt too. So the story goes.
Right.
Because she looked and she was watching the angels destroy Sodom and Gomorrah, if I got the story right?
Yep.
And she was not supposed to turn around and look, and she did, and she turned her pillar of salt, and the whole menagerie just kept walking forward. Like, okay. And then there's a lot of stuff in the Bible, like, let there be light. Who the fuck was God talking to when he said that? It's so stupid. It's like, if you look at, or excuse me, if you read the Bible, okay, I'm talking about Christianity, because I go hard in the paint on Christianity, because that's what I know. Okay, I used to be one. I've read the Bible twice. If you look at the Bible like Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter, there's no harm done.
Right.
But once you look at it as a handbook for your life, that's where problems start. Because people start interpreting things the way they want to interpret them. Because if you look at the Christian landscape of the United States right now, you have people who are nice people, but they happen to be Christians. Now I'm going to explain that to you. They're not good people because they're Christians. Don't let them fool you. They would be people if they were Muslim, if they were Jewish, if they were Mormons, if they were Jain, if they were anything else, they would be great people. Like Jimmy Carter, they say he's a great Christian guy. He's just a great guy. He likes to build houses for people because he cares about people. It doesn't matter what God he prays to or what religious service he goes to every Sunday or what rituals he performs. He is still the guy who is about making sure other human beings have a safe place to live, be warm, be able to sleep somewhere comfortable at night, not have to worry about the elements and stuff like that. He's just that guy. He just happens to be Christian. I truly believe that individuals are who they are, and it's not determined by their religion. It's determined by who they are innately inside. Like, I would be this much. This is the thing that'll scare some people. I would be this compassionate and this well-spoken if I was a Muslim or if I was a Christian, because this is who I am. But luckily, I don't deal in bullshit. I like reality too much. You know what I tell people all the time? The truth is way more interesting than made up stories. It always has been and always will be. Now, don't get me wrong. You got some talented people who can tell some good fictional stories.
Yep.
But man, the truth is so much interesting. Like with science and things of that nature, it applies to our daily life. And it's so interesting, the things that we don't know. And what's so great about being a human being is being able to say, when you answer some questions, well, I don't know. Like, people ask me all the time, so what do you think happens when you die? Well, since I've never been dead, I have no fucking clue. And as a matter of fact, I've never met anybody who actually died and then came back years later and go, oh yeah, by the way, this is what you can expect. It doesn't work that way. When you're gone, you're gone.
Yep.
Okay. Now, I can't explain what it's like outside the realm of time, because we can't perceive that. That's not where we exist. That's not where our mind is. That's not where our reality is. Our reality is trapped inside the concept of, or the reality of time, space. That's where we're at.
Yep.
We're inside of time and space. We can't change that. So when people say, well, my God exists outside of time and space, well, that's the same definition as something that doesn't exist.
Yep.
100%. So it's to me, it's rather cut and dry. It's you believe this stuff because you want to, and that you are willingly ignoring facts because you think there's a conspiracy or something crazy. It's not. All you have to do is look at if you ever watched any kind of police show, or actually if you talk to a real police officer, this is even better because my dad was a police officer. in the military as security police. He was also he was security, he was flight line. He was early in his career when we were little. He was patrol, but he went over to security. Then he became the first shirt. But then after that, when I was already in the military, he was a state patrol for Nebraska. But anyway, if you talk to a real police officer and detectives and whatnot, this is the funny thing. They always tell you the most simplest explanation is 99.9% the correct one.
Yep.
All that extra, like people, that's why I can't stand conspiracy theories. Because the simplest explanation is probably more than likely the right one. All this extra shit that you're sprinkling in on top is just extra shit.
Yep.
It doesn't mean anything. It means absolutely zero. That shit cracks me up.
Well,
I'm just like,
here's the thing: when you have something that you have evidence of a conspiracy, and I'm going to pick on the JFK assassination, right?
yes.
Because clearly,
Excuse me.
clearly, there's more than one shooter. There has to be. That's just math, you know.
Oh yeah,
it's just physics, right? That they're clearly, you know, shots coming from two directions. Okay, so with that being said, okay, so you could say, well, Oswald couldn't have been the lone shooter. Okay, that I get, right?
Yeah.
Or you could say,
it's
well,
reasonable to assume that. You're right. It's reasonable to assume that,
right?
Yeah.
But what happens is that when you start reading all this other stuff into it, you know, the CIA, the mob, the, you know, and all of these different things. Now what you're doing is you're reading a lot of inference into something that there, like you said, that there's a pretty simple explanation for. And that's like right now there's all this stuff with these Chinese weather balloons or spy balloons or whatever. And here's the thing, right? You know, people are saying, well, some of these, you know, a couple of things they've been proven to be, you know, spy balloons, but some of these things we don't know what they are, what they shot down. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, if you have someone that's capable of traveling through interstellar space or interdimensional space, and they have that technology, surely they have the technology to evade an F-22.
Oh yeah.
I'm just so you know, when you say, okay, you know, the government is keeping information from us and all of that. Listen, I remember when the U.S. Army Air Corps in World War II first encountered the German Messerschmitt jets.
Mm-hmm.
The first shot or the first one that they took down, they admit was dumb luck. There was no math. There was no magic formula. This thing was absolutely superior to everything that we had in every way imaginable. But what they learned is that they were able to fly one fighter, one Mustang, or one Corsair as a foil to distract the Messerschmitt, and then shoot it down, because once they got it into turns, it wasn't as maneuverable as the prop power jets. It was just faster in a straight line. So they were able to figure it out, right?
Right.
But when you talk about something that's capable of traversing light years of distance or multidimensional, if that's the case, we simply don't have what it takes to shoot that down. So I say all this to say that, back to what your point was, that the simplest explanation is probably the best. These are other weather devices, weather gathering or espionage gathering or whatever. But there's a simple explanation. It's not anything. We're not shooting down extraterrestrials. ET is not being splashed here.
Excuse me. Yeah, ET is not in the building. Not at all. And I have a big problem with speaking of that, since you brought that up, the UFO thing.
Yeah.
People say, I saw a UFO, okay, so I think it's an alien. I'm like, whoa. You don't get to say that. You know what UFO means, unidentified foreign object.
Yep.
Once you find out what it is, it becomes an IFO at that point.
Right. Yep.
So it's like, you can't say you don't know what it is, but you know what it is in the same voice. Either you don't know what it is, or you know what it is.
Right.
And I really have a problem with that because, excuse me, that I have pleurisy, so sometimes it flares up. But anyway, the you're confusing language, and I like for people to stick to the language we all agreed upon. Like certain words mean certain things.
Yep.
So stick to that. And when you say UFO, you mean you don't know what it is.
Right.
If you think it's an alien aircraft, say, I think I saw alien aircraft. Don't say, I think I saw a UFO. People see UFOs all the time. People, like, if I was from the country, right, and I didn't have a TV, and I didn't listen to the radio, and I was really just all about me, and I was one of these people that lived off the grid. The first time I saw an airplane, I'd be like, what the hell is that? To me, that's a UFO. Yeah. I have no idea what it is. That doesn't mean it's an alien aircraft. That means it's identified from my point of view.
Right.
UFO points to the point of view of the person observing the object, right?
Right.
So if everybody but 10 people know what this is, still to those 10 people, it's a UFO because they don't know what it is yet. No one's explained it to them. Once those people gather an explanation or get an explanation from everybody else about what that is, then it's no longer a UFO because there's no points of view now that don't know what that is.
Let me kind of change gears in the same vein here, right? Because a lot of people now, they'll say, well, see, the unidentified things in the sky. It's the prophecy of the Bible is coming to pass. Satan is sending his army into the earth, and these are the advanced scouts, and I'm telling you, man, some of the religious bullshit around this is absolutely mind-boggling. It is absolutely astounding. The leaps, the intellectual leaps that people make to try to connect the dots with this is amazing. And so again, if you don't know what it is, you don't know what it is. It's unidentified until you do know what it is.
Excuse me.
And I think about this like years ago. And I was one of these people that when I was in the military, I spent a lot of time reading Jane's books of ships, Jane's book of aircraft, Jane's books of foreign navy and foreign aircraft, and I used to just pour over. I was a real big military hardware nerd, and I remember years ago, this was like around 1985, maybe 86. It was right before I got out of the Navy. And something crashed in the Nevada desert near Groom Lake.
Mm-hmm.
And the way the military went about cordoning off this area, everybody was in massive spin control. This is an alien craft that was shot down. Well, as it turns out, like a lot of what goes on at Area 51 are things that are involved with the Lockheed Skunk Works and prototype aircraft. And as it turns out, this thing that was shot down was a prototype of the F-117, the stealth fighter.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But this was years, this was like 1986. The stealth fighter wasn't revealed to be a thing until Desert Storm. Wow,
which is like 2001? 2002?
No. That was actually 1990. Was that 95, 96, something like that? The first Gulf.
Oh, I'm thinking about the one that came after.
Right.
You're right. Yeah, you're right.
But that was when this thing first emerged as a thing, right? But I remember back then that the prophecy, the rapture watchers and the prophecy hounds, they were out there. See, look, the Lord is coming. This is a sign. An angel has been shot. I heard all kinds of stuff, and so one of the things that I want to ask you about, and when you encounter something that's happening in current events. And it's immediately conflated with something prophetic, something biblical, something religious. What is your first response, or better yet, how do you take that, unpack it, and then debunk it? I just kind of want to get into your headspace here.
Sure. Well, I'm rather simple. It's rather simple for me. If something happens in the news, let's say that particular incident in the 80s, or the one with Brazil with the Christ the Redeemer statue, or anything that ever happens that people attribute to God, my first thought is, well, it's been about 2,000 years now, and you guys haven't proved that this God person's real yet. So I immediately think, okay, this is some nutter butter that's just saying some crap, and people are allowed to say what they want to say, but come on. So my first thing I go through is, okay, this is nonsense, and then I try to gather more information about what they're talking about to see why they're going to this, and most time, no, all the time, it's attributed to the fact that they don't know why that event happened, or they don't want to accept why that event happened. So it's like religion and God is the ever receding pocket of ignorance.
Yeah.
Once you know how something is done and you actually are taught something, like people know how TVs work. That's not a miracle anymore. People know how radios work. That's not God. People know why we get sick now, or some things we get sick from. People know that you can take Tylenol for a headache or whatever.
Yeah.
That's not God anymore. Back a few hundred years ago, people getting headaches was a sign from God. They used to burn witches, for goodness sake, on a stake because these people thought differently than everybody else. And now we just understand that actually being a Wiccan doesn't really mean jack shit anyway. Right. So it's no different than any other religion, except for Wiccans aren't going around knocking on people's doors asking them if they heard the good news about witches and shit. So at least I'll give them that. I'll give them that benefit of the doubt. But the first thing I think about, Derek, is like how ridiculous it is, because there are lots of atheists online, whether they be on YouTube or Twitch or wherever that they can, have a presence. A lot of people do these debates, and I wouldn't be a good debater because my overall feeling is, or my overwhelming thought is, well, you still have to meet the first thing of proving that this Christian God of the Bible is actually real. Because if he's not proven to be real, I have no obligation. Hold on, I have no obligation or reason to even entertain that he's real. I'm not obligated to do that, and so you can't assume that I'm going to entertain that, because I'm not going to. Like when people I see atheists say all the time, well, if Jesus did, I said, well, why? Jesus ain't did shit. He's not real. Stop it. Stop giving these people the benefit of the doubt. They have a shit ton of shit to prove. And above that, let's say they prove that a deity does exist, but it's still some kind of entity that we don't know, blah, 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 blah. You still have the overwhelming task of proving to me that I need to get on my knees and worship it.
Yeah.
Crazy. I just, as much as I have friends that are Christians and Muslims or whatever, decent people, but for the life of me, I can't understand why being a reasonable person is so hard for some people. I don't get it. It's not that hard. Just look at shit for what it is. And don't. I've worked really hard at not. It took me a while too. I've been doing some growing over the last 10, 15 years. It took me a long time to be able to take my feelings out of situations.
Yeah.
And look at people for who they are. And I have to divorce my feelings or my attitudes about who they are, and look at when you're what good lawyers do and what good cops do. They don't care if they like you or not. If you're innocent, you're innocent.
Right.
So you have to look at each situation with a reasonable. You have to approach it with a reasonable mind, going, okay, everyday life. This is the funny part. when you talk about these situations that come up, and people go, "Oh, God is a prophecy," blah blah blah. In real life, I find this very interesting. In real life, when it comes to their bills, putting gas in the car, make sure they have food, they got to pay their mortgage or pay their rent, or they got to make sure they have clothes. All these other things they're reasonable about. But when it comes to what they do on Sunday or Saturday, depending on what their religion is, now all of a sudden it seems all that goes away.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting to me. It's like, how can a person who's so reasonable in their regular life, they balance their checkbook, they make sure the heat stays on, they make sure their lawn is mowed, they make sure their job is done to the best of their ability, they make sure they treat people with respect and blah 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 blah. But when it comes to Sunday, they're like, "Oh, gays are evil," and blah blah blah. I'm like going, what?
Well, see, this is what I was saying is that like the person who has the most extreme claim is the person with the burden of proof, right? So I always say that it's not for atheists to prove whether God exists or doesn't. We're not the claimant. We're the counterclaimant. We're not the we're the plaintiff, not the defendant, right?
Right.
So the burden of proof is on them to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that God exists. Now, back to your debate point, when people say, well, because I've had people come to me and say, "Hey, why don't you come on my YouTube channel and debate me?"
That would be my response.
Well, my response has been, okay, but you can't use the Bible as a forensic device, right? Because if we're going to debate from the perspective of whether or not the Bible is true, then we need to have a debate prior to determine whether or not the Bible is true or not. And you're going to lose that one, right? So that means you can use any text you want except for the Bible, except for the Quran, except for the Torah. You can't use those because you're saying that I am going to come to a forensic debate with anecdotal evidence. That doesn't work. If you've done any kind of classical debate, you know that that's something that is either not allowed by the rule or that is easily dismissed in the course of the debate.
And really quick, I don't mean to interrupt you, but that's what you're talking about is to me it's akin of trying to define a word with the word. If you want to defend your religion, you have to defend your religion in a secular way, because defending your religion from inside the religion is, to me, you're just defining the word with the word. You're not providing any outward context as to why your religion is true, because you're saying that I have to believe in it first. Well, that's an oxymoron, because of course if I believe in it, then I'm going to believe it's true, but that doesn't make it true.
There's no debate if both sides believe, right? So this was something Aaron and I had talked about on a Freology episode. We were talking about, like, why are things, right? Why is this magazine a magazine? Why is this glass a glass? Because if you look at things at the quantum level, everything is unpredictable. Everything is kind of scattered. The mere fact of observation changes the outcome, right? Well, there is what they call in quantum physics the wave function, right? And the wave function simply says that there is a probability of something happening that we basically can agree on. It's not certain, it's probable, and there is some degree of likelihood that this is possible. So the basically is the degree of probability. And so why is the glass a glass? Why is the magazine a magazine? Why is the TV a TV? And that's because we agree on something. We agree, and that causes the wave function to collapse into a thing that we understand. Now, what I'm getting at here is that there is no agreement on any deity. And the only reason why religion persists is because there are enough people to collapse the wave function around. And here's the thing, that you can collapse a wave function around something that is not necessarily true. This is how lies are built and spread. This is how propaganda works. That if you have enough people that agree on the thing, then it begins to manifest as something that is potentially or that's perceived as real.
Mhm.
And so I believe that that's how religion works.
Well,
Just
yeah,
like how we say the wave function collapses and we agree that this is a TV over here, right?
right,
Because at the quantum level, it's something we can't perceive because it changes every time we look at it. But
right.
as you go up from the micro to the macro, now this is something that's perceptible. At what point is the threshold that between what is intangible and what is real?
Right.
But the only thing that can actually manifest as something real is something that actually has substance. And that's why the God thing doesn't work. And this is why any debate around God will fail, because even if we do collapse the wave function along this lie, enough people believing a lie doesn't make it true. It just makes it appear to be true. It
Right.
gives the appearance of the truth, but there's no substance behind it. So anyway,
Right.
I just had to say that. So when people talk about debating, I'm like, okay, fine, no Bible then. If we're not discussing anything from your your talisman of books, then we can talk. But if this is going to be your rallying point, if this is going to be your stake in the sand, if this is going to be your forensic foundation, we have no discussion.
Yeah, because my answer to that, if something goes what the Bible says, I'm like, okay, fine. Why should I give a fuck about what's written in the Bible?
Right,
And they say, well, it's the word of God. How do I know that's true?
right.
Well, it says so in the Bible. You just define the word with the word. I want to know why.
But even the Bible doesn't say the Bible is true, because the Bible doesn't know that the Bible exists.
True. So, yeah, I understand exactly what you meant when you said that.
Yeah.
I don't like circular arguments because they're a waste of time. That's probably why I don't debate, because I notice when I watch these debates, and I've watched quite a few, they become rather circular after about 20 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes. They start circling back and they keep going around the same points over and over again. And they keep bringing up things that are irrelevant to the conversation. And I'm talking about theists at this point. And it's just rather annoying that they use the same arguments over and over again that are irrelevant to the conversation and that don't further their agenda, to be honest with you. For a person that's trying to convince me that something is true and they keep not giving me evidence, it's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Just be honest and say, well, I don't have evidence. This would be the perfect debate. I think God is true. Well, you're going to have to prove that. Well, I don't have any proof, but that's just what I choose to believe. Okay, cool. End of debate. But nobody wants to be honest enough to say that they don't have proof. They just choose to believe it. They want to tell you shit like God is real. No, he's not, or it's not real.
Yeah.
And now here's the thing that I disagree with a lot of atheists, especially Sam Harris, I think does this, and so does Matt Dillahunty. They say things like, well, I can't definitively say that God isn't true. I can. I'm going to tell you why. I can definitively say that God isn't real, especially not the God of the Bible, for one reason and one reason only. I have not observed them inside of space and time ever, and no one else has. Yep. So why should I clutter my brain with the possibility that some shit that somebody made up 2,000 years ago could possibly be true? No, I'm not doing that. It's a waste of fucking time. I'm not doing that. It's nonsense. Right. It's so much nonsense. I to be honest with you, if Christians stop trying to legislate their stupid religion, if religious people stop telling people they're going to hell, if religious people stop flaunting their religion and using it as a weapon, telling gay people they should be killed or they should do this, if they stop worrying about people's gender identity, because I'm gonna tell you, in real life, none of that shit matters. None of that shit matters.
Yep.
Because you're attracted to who you're attracted to. So what everybody else is has nothing else to do with you.
Doesn't mean anything.
Nothing. So when they stop doing that and they actually mind their own business and keep that shit to themselves, I would have not. I would. Oh my goodness, knock yourself out. I have no problem with that.
I have what I call it the TMR test, right? The TMR test is how I know that there is no God, right? Okay. Because anything that exists is either tangible. That means you can either sense it with your senses, or you can detect it with some type of sensor. Right. Right. So there's some tangibility to it. There's something that says, or that creates some evidence of the thing. The second thing is it measurable? Is it measurable? Can you ascribe some dimension to it? That's just like in the scientific community, I've had intelligent Christians say to me, well, Derek, how do you explain dark matter and dark energy? We've never amassed any dark matter or any dark energy, so we don't know that it exists. But here's the thing, that even though we have not established the tangibility of it, we are able to mathematically model it, right? And so as a mathematical model, we're able to ascribe some quantification to it. We're able to measure it. Right, and so now the conventional wisdom among physical science is that in the known universe, only 4% of the known universe is comprised of what we call atomic matter, that we can measure with the periodic table or the standard model or even some version of string theory. Only 4%.
So 90% is dark matter?
What? No. Only 4% is physical matter that we understand. That the silicon of the glass, the stainless steel of the mug, kind of thing, right? That's atomic. What we understand to be atomic matter. But dark matter and dark energy, we've never actually handled it. We've never actually looked at it, but we know through mathematical modeling that that there's a strong likelihood or strong probability of its existence. It is measurable. And the last thing is repeatability. And this is where the whole God thing falls apart, because I've said, this is my contention, because 2 of my kids had to spend different degrees of time in children's hospitals. And so as a parent, that's a horrible thing. When you have to go to children's hospital, this is a horrible thing, because this says there's something serious that requires some specialized medical attention. But when you get there, you find out what we're going through is nothing compared to what some of these other parents are going through. And even more to the point, there in every children's hospital on every single day, there is some parent that has to deal with the reality of burying their child today. Now, watch this. There are children that get healed. And the religious mind will say, well, it's a miracle. Look at God.
No.
But if this is God, and God, if according to your book, is not a respecter of persons, then that means what he does for one, he's obligated. Not just he should, coulda, shoulda, woulda. He's obligated. He must do it for someone else. And if God is no respecter of persons, it doesn't say whether or not they believe or not. It says whether or not he respects them or not. So that means that if there is no consistent repeatability, so like let's say if a child is healed from non-Hodgkin's lymphoma and this child gets better and goes home, but 2 other children who have non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, they die. That means there's no repeatability. That means that this is a random occurrence. It's the same thing if you take eggs and throw them against a brick wall, right? Me and some engineer buddies of mine, because this is what we do. We get into math, right? We sat up and calculated how many attempts of dropping eggs of equal weight from a 12-foot ladder to a concrete platform. How many eggs would you have to drop before you got to the first two identical pair, or the first identical pair of splatter pattern?
Right.
And this number was insane. Is like 19 billion attempts.
Wow.
19 billion attempts before you get to an identical splatter pattern. What am I saying? 1 in 19 billion in no wise represents repeatability.
No.
That's random occurrence. That's pure chaos, right? So and again, if you spend any time in church, and I was a pastor, I was in ministry for 30 years. We used to stand up there and say, well, that God is a God of order, right? Okay, if God is a God of order, then that means that God is a God of repeatability. That means that God, in order for someone to be trusted, Jimmie, today we're starting late, right? Now, if I develop a pattern of starting late with you, then you'll say I'm not trustworthy, because
not necessarily trustworthy, but I would say that you are.
I'm not consistent.
Yeah, you're not consistent.
Right? So my inconsistency would be a good reason for you to have concern about doing collaborative projects with me, because I'm inconsistent. So if God is inconsistent, how do you trust an inconsistent God?
You don't.
So again, if you look at God from the standpoint of tangibility, can I see him? Like you were saying, is he perceptible in three-dimensional space? No. Is there, we can, they say, okay, you have to sense God with your spirit and not with your heart. Well, that's very subjective. There's no measurement for spiritual assessment, right? So this God cannot be sensed by our senses or by a sensor. So therefore, he's not tangible. You can't measure him. We don't know how big he is. We don't know what his estimated horsepower or kilowatt hours are. We don't know any of that. So he's not measurable, right?
Right.
And certainly not repeatable, because again, Jesus, according to the Bible, said that greater works than these shall you do, right? So if he's speaking to people in the 21st century, then that means that there should be people in the 21st century that are feeding multitudes with a 2-piece fish dinner, and that shit ain't happening. So anyway,
I understand exactly what you're saying. If that what you said at the end is something I relate to a lot. If people acted Jesus-like, because there's certain parts of the story that are pretty cool. It's a nice guy. He loves everybody. He heals people. He feeds people. Blah 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 blah. The miracle stuff is just funny, but a guy who cares about you and helps you or whatever, there's nothing wrong with that. And if more people were more helpful and less judgmental and more understanding and not so goddamn petty, we would be farther along in humanity than we are. People are so caught up in their own pettiness that it sickens me sometimes. Sometimes, like, I love Instagram. I'm not gonna lie. I love Instagram. But sometimes I just gotta go, okay, I gotta get off Instagram because there's just too much pettiness going on. I'm gonna get mad, and I don't want to get mad. I don't want to get frustrated with these idiots because I know they're just a bunch of idiots, and I don't need to be going there with them. So sometimes you gotta take a step back or two, and just let them be who they are. But I think that if people actually cared about each other and really cared about their communities and the things that we learn and the truth, they cared about the truth and were honest and responsible and took accountability. I think decades of doing that and faithfully doing that, I think religion for the most part would probably fade away because there'd be no need for it at that point.
Exactly.
I don't understand why that. I don't think I appreciate your introduction, but I don't think I'm any more smarter than your average smart person. Okay, I understand there are levels, and some people don't have a very high IQ. They can't solve problems and stuff like that, and they can't reasonably put together different ideas and construct a way of thinking and stuff. I understand that.
Sure.
But I don't think I'm the end all be all. I do understand what's going on, though, but I don't know everything, and I don't even. The thing that makes me smart is the fact that I know that there's some shit that I don't even know that I don't know.
Right.
That's what makes me smart, is the fact that I understand that there's shit out there that I have no idea even exists. I keep that I keep myself grounded, knowing that there's always something that we could learn and teach one another in a real, from the context of truth.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, religion, all religion, especially the Abrahamic ones, are nonsense and useless when you look at what we can achieve. Because I pose this question. I wanted to bring this out today in my transition into this. This is one of the most important things to me. And it is, I lost my train of thought. I hate when I do that.
Senior moment.
I know, right?
Get used to it.
If what was I gonna say? What was I talking about? I hate when I do that. I just turned 55, so I'm getting up.
You're AARP ready, man.
I know, right? But if what was I gonna say? I was gonna talk about it's something I always talk about. God dang it! I hate when that happens.
And you know what? Listen, I'm right there with you, because I've kind of faded out. But while you're thinking about it, I got something else I want to throw at you.
Okay.
Because what I want to do is I want to set it up, give people a taste of what they can expect from your show. So let's talk about a particular subject, something in the news right now that you've taken and you've unpacked this through an atheist lens.
The balloon thing.
Okay.
The balloon thing.
So give us your take on it. Because I said mine.
Okay, well, it's nonsense. Okay, first of all, and I'm saying I'm looking at this to an atheist point of view, but this really doesn't have anything to do with religion per se. Mm-hmm. But because of my skepticism and the fact that I look at everything from a reasonable point of view, when I hear people making big deals about these balloons, I'm like, they just shot down a couple balloons. Mm-hmm. That's it. There's nothing. No one got hurt. Did they even find any kind of mechanical cameras or anything on it?
They said that they did find some intelligence gathering equipment. They didn't go into what it was, but they did find some. But
here's the thing. When it was off the coast of North Carolina when they found it, right? Or South or somewhere in that area. And they waited till they could push it out, or went out towards the water so they could shoot it down over the water so it wouldn't fall on land, right? That's what I gathered, that they shot it down over water. The one that was over by North Carolina.
Yep.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say this has probably happened a lot of times before. It just didn't make the news.
Yeah, and I would agree.
I think that the advent of everybody having a camera and everybody having a phone and and video and pictures and social media and all this information that we're making mountains out of molehills, which drives me freaking crazy. Don't give anything that doesn't demand importance. I'm sorry. It drives me nuts. That's why it's so hard to get me angry. Because I don't have time to let other people determine what my mood is. I do that by myself. Like I tell my girlfriend all the time, you want to be mad at me, you're going to be mad by yourself because I'm not joining you. Knock yourself out, be mad, but I won't be mad with you unless I have a reason to be. So, but yeah, so I look at the balloon thing the same way I look at religion. What reasonably happened? Okay, what do they determine that this is? Mm-hmm. Who, people, do they know it was sent over by China?
I don't think that they do.
No. And so now everybody's saying it's from China. And you know why they're saying that? Because of 3 years ago, COVID. That's why. And the fact that we're not exactly allies with China now, are we?
No.
Okay. So why didn't they say it was Korea, North Korea? Why didn't they say it was another country that we're not friends with? Why didn't they say it was from Cuba?
Yeah.
Cuba don't like us. I mean, not too much. It's not as bad as it used to be. But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, I think that the whole thing was the trajectory of these balloons has typically been from east to west. It's like if you have a balloon coming up from the south, then Cuba, or but you can make the case for North Korea for sure.
Yeah, North Korea. But here's my point. This is the question that entered my mind. The first question that entered my mind. How did it get all the way from China to here, and we didn't hear about it until it got here? I find that highly unlikely that type of device could make it. How many thousands of miles in that? That's got to be at least 11,000 miles.
Yeah.
Probably more than.
But here's the thing, the logical explanation, right? That these things are weather balloons are launched all the time, and they catch the jet stream, and they can travel at high rates of speed. All of that's known, known quantity. Also, that not only does China launch balloons, because here's the thing, virtually every technologically advanced country has some form of balloon technology, and what they do is they use it to measure atmospheric changes in beneath the stratosphere, right? But anything that's above that, they use satellites, right? And the thing is, China has a well-defined arsenal of both civilian and military satellites. We know about all these, but we're not shooting satellites down. And somebody on my page has said, well, why does China need to fly over? They could just go on Google Earth. Well, Google Earth, a lot of that is redacted. So if you want to go on Google Earth and go look at
some pictures that are blacked out, you can't see nothing.
Yeah, you go and look at Area 51, for example.
Yeah.
You look at White Sands, or you look at the JPL. You look at any of these things, and they're redacted. They're because for national security purposes, Google redacts those locations. So I think that, like you said, I think that it's much ado about nothing. Because it's one thing to find a balloon that has some listening devices or intelligence gathering or whatever, whatever kind of sensor, right? But it would be something else if you found one that had a military grade payload.
Right. That's something else.
Now that's something else.
That's a threat. Actually, that's a threat.
That's a threat. But it's like if you look at just it's intelligence gathering. Okay, all of this is some form of comeuppance by other nations against other nations. It happens all the time. Satellites, even, matter of fact, we talk about allies and enemies, right? And we say China is like an enemy, but the British and the French spy on us too.
Yeah, they do.
And they're our friends, and we spy on them. So all of this is, I think, much ado about nothing. Now, I got one more question for you, right?
Sure.
Give me a book, a book in the public consciousness, right? That deserves a treatment, an unpacking, a deconstruction through an atheist lens.
You mean something that I disagree with or agree with?
Well, I mean, you could agree with it or disagree with it, but something that's in the public space right now that most people listening, that they'd have some idea of what it is, but you have some perspective on it from an atheist lens.
That's a good question. Uh,
I got my chops in talk radio, man, so I know how to do an interview.
that's a fucking good question, Derek. 'Cause all the books that I like have done that. They've been deconstructed, and
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying. But
I'm going to throw one out there just to see if this primes the pump any, right?
okay,
Lee Strobel, The Case for Christ. Not a new book by any stretch of the imagination, but every Christian, just about every Christian, has heard of this book, right?
right.
And the premise is Lee Strobel is a retired attorney. Well, he's retired now. At the time he wrote this, I think almost 30 years ago, he was an active attorney, and basically what he was creating was an actual forensic defense for Christianity.
Okay.
And when I first read it, and at that time I was all on the Christian Kool-Aid. I was hip deep in ministry, and I said, "See, here you have it, the forensic evidence that supports the claim of Christianity." But when I go back and look at it now, through the lens of what I know now, that there is no forensic evidence supporting it. That there, like for example, one of the poster boys for supporting the whole construct of Christianity are the works of Flavius Josephus, right?
Right.
And
isn't he the one that said that he's the only one that can account for the that wrote down that Jesus was alive or something like that?
Well, he said that there was this man Christ, and that that he was a good man, a man of God, and this, that, and the other. And then there was another one, Tacitus. Tacitus wrote that something to the effect that this man Jesus had rose from the dead, but both of these accounts were written. Josephus was written nearly a century after Jesus's alleged death, and Tacitus was written several decades after that. So neither one of these were contemporary accounts. They were not eyewitness accounts. These were purely anecdotal.
Josephus wasn't around when Jesus was supposed to be alive.
Exactly. Josephus was born around the time that Jesus died, or he was born not long before. So he would have no firsthand knowledge, and so Bart Ehrman, who's he's considered to be agnostic, but he wrote saying there's no archaeological, no forensic evidence of the existence of Jesus, but he said based on the historical record and everything that's written, there's no way that we could debate whether or not there is a historical Jesus, and I disagree. That there are many authors. One is David Fitzgerald that basically made a compelling case as to why there was no Jesus at all, right? So there is no compelling case for Christ. It's an easily debunked argument, and and you could go on and on. Like there are books about women in ministry. There are books about theology. Like even this, like Rob Bell, who I love, right? Rob Bell broke away from Christian circles when he wrote Love Wins, right? And basically he was making the case for love being the hermeneutic of Christianity, and that everything else was basically window dressing. Well, my agreement with Rob Bell is that if we all operate in love, then yes, we do good. But if we say that Jesus is the archetype or the paradigm of this love, then I disagree, because there is no forensic evidence of a Jesus, right? So that's where that question sprung from.
Well, when it comes to Osiah, because anyone who knows anything about our alphabet and all these things, his name wasn't Jesus if he was real, which I don't believe. His name was Hosea. Because before, what is it, before 1400, there was no letter J.
No letter J.
Yeah. So that is, and plus, why is he called Jesus? And everybody I ever met with that same name, his name was Jesus.
Jesus, yeah.
Literally, I have not met one person with that name who said, yeah, call me Jesus. I just, this whole thing just reeks of just bullshit to me. And it was written, this stuff was invented and made at a time where people weren't smart. And so, and it's gone on for so damn long that a lot of people agree with it. But to answer your question, I really don't have an answer for that, bro. I've been sitting here thinking of something that I could think needs deconstruction from an atheist point of view. And I can't think of anything because, and it makes me seem like I'm stupid, but I'm not. I just don't know any books that rub me, that I've even paid attention to be honest with you. I'll be honest with you. I'm so staunch in my position that religion is the biggest con played on human beings, that anything remotely related to it, I don't even fucking want to read it, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But coming from this point of view, now that I'm doing the show, because this is my first time doing this type of thing, I'll probably start dwelling into that kind of stuff just so I can have something compelling to talk about and something to reference, so I can maybe draw in some people who are theistic in the way they live their lives, and that they'll know that I'm coming from a point of trying to understand what it is that they read and what they believe and how they live their life and things of that nature. Because I think if you're going to have a show talking about being an atheist and people who are theists, you should have, a good amount of knowledge about that which you don't agree with. Because if you don't know what you don't agree with, how do you know to disagree with it? But
Yeah.
grew up a Christian, and I know the basics, and I don't know a lot of the extra literature that goes along with it. I know that if you ask, well, no, I have one book. What's that book that talks about is there a book written, or is it just a document, the Sharia law thing?
Who?
Sharia law. For the Muslims, Sharia law.
Oh, yeah. I think that she's actually written books. You're talking about the lady that's originally from Ethiopia, right?
No, I'm talking about the
Sharia law. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Sharia, we're under Sharia law. Yeah.
Yeah. So
does that come from an extra book that was written? Because that's not in that Sharia law stuff is not in the Quran.
No, it's extra. It's extra Quranical, right? But
those type of things, I think, answer your question. Things like that, like stuff. Okay, you got the Bible, which is the holy book of Christians, right? And then you got the first part of that, which is the Torah, which is Jewish scripture, right?
Yep.
Then you have the Quran, which is particular to Muslims, correct?
Yep.
So those are the sacred scriptures. Why do we need all these extra fucking books?
And that's a really good question, because one of the things that I find interesting is that theology is the study ostensibly of God, right?
Right.
So you have the holy book, but then you have to have other books that further unpack the holy books, and so one of the arguments that I've had about this, like to your point, why do you need these extra books, right? And so if you talk to an attorney will say, well, you have the Constitution, you have the U.S. Constitution, Then you have state constitutions. Then you have municipal charters and county documents, and all of these things taken into total, they comprise what's called case law, right? And so when you go into an attorney's office, you'll see these big banks of books, right? And all of this is case law, and it's based on some precedent, based on some interpretation of the Constitution or some other legal underwriting document. And so what a theologist will say is, just like attorneys have case law, you have to have these books that further expound on what we have that we consider to be legal, legally binding. So, but the point of that is, and here's, this is where one place where they have a point, because you'll have case law that talks about, let's use marriage equality or abortion. And so in either of those cases, there's ton of case law, ton of precedent that support both positions, pro and con, right? But it's the preponderance of the evidence, or what can be proven in a court of law, that actually establishes the watermark and says this is where where the law is built. So they have all these different books, and it's funny. Like, I've got this beautiful bookshelf behind me that you guys can't see at all, but this bookshelf, I didn't have this bookshelf back in Arizona, but I had a big bookshelf, and it was full of theological books, textbooks, opinion, editorial, commentary, all of that stuff. And everybody, they had different opinions of what God was, what God meant. Why did God say this? And all opinions as the day is long. And the thing that I'm getting at is that where I do agree with them is that if the Bible is a trustworthy document, and if it is something that's a rule and guide, then yes, it can be parsed and interpreted multiple different ways, and I get it. But this is my thing, and this is where I'll shut up. That when you look at all the intellectual towers, pillars, disciplines, right? Biology, chemistry, philosophy, psychology, medicine, physics, physiology, astrology, astronomy, whatever you could think of, all these different intellectual disciplines, right? That each one of these things, you could point to specific incidents where each one of these things was a contributor to the advancement of humanity.
Okay.
You can't find one for theology.
No.
There's not one book anywhere by anyone that in any way, shape, form, or fashion moved the needle of humanity.
Theology in general is the antithesis of progress.
Agreed.
That's how I look at it, and I don't find it particularly useful. Like, this is what I was going to say. I finally came back to me. Anything that a person can do, like people who do good things under, let's say, well, the church does this, and the church does that for these people, and the church blah 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 blah, and all this. I'm like, well, there is nothing that a church can do that means anything for another human being that you can't do secularly. And as a matter of fact, I will argue that you can do them better secularly, because you don't have the dogma of that particular religion holding any kind of weight and any type of
Or judgment.
conversation or reason behind why you would help this person. You would simply help the person because they need help. That's what I was going to talk about. I'm sorry. I can't believe I forgot that, because that's one of my big deals. There is nothing, absolutely nothing, that can be done under the guise of religion that you cannot do better secularly. And I'm talking about things that actually benefit other people. I'm not talking about, well, you can't be baptized. Well, of course not. That's nonsense anyway. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about things that are tangibly substantial to helping people have a better experience on this planet. You can do that just as good or better secularly. And that, to me, is one of the big reasons why, my name disappeared. One of the big reasons why I don't care for religion, because it hasn't showed me anything that it's good for.
Right.
None. Except for telling people that being gay is bad, which, how is that? If you're married to a woman, you had kids, and you got grandkids and the whole shebang and all that, you got a good job, your pension, you're retired, blah, 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 blah. You have your wife, you guys been together for 30 some odd years. Why would you care if two guys love each other and want to live together and be married? Who gives a shit? That's so useless. It is so fucking useless to have that emotion. It's like being mad because there's air. There's nothing you can do about that. Air exists.
You can't make public policy based on what you like or dislike. You have to say what is the overarching good for humanity.
It's like they don't know how to be adults. You know what? If you personally don't like something, that's fine.
Don't participate.
Do that and do what adults do when they don't want to do this art or watch this TV show or be around gay people or do this. Just ignore it. That's all you gotta do. You ain't gotta tell people they're bad for doing stuff that you don't like. Like when people say, "I hate country music, sucks," they should get. I'm like, no. If you don't like country music, that's fine. Mm-hmm. And I personally can't stand country music, but my girlfriend likes it, and there's millions of other people who like that shit. My mom and dad like some country songs. I'm like, okay, but I mean, it's not for me. Right. But I'm not the type of person to tell people, well, you shouldn't be able to listen to country music. Listen all you want to. I'm going to listen to what I like. James Brown, Parliament, Pete Rock, some jazz, Donald Byrd, that type of stuff. I like my music. The Hall & Oates, Aerosmith. I love AC/DC. Van Halen's my favorite rock group. That kind of Foreigner, Journey. Yeah. We can go on and on. I'm a big child of the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s when it comes to music. 30 years of music for me, baby. No, actually, that's 40. I love all the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. Some of the 2000s, but to me, the best music came before the 2000s. But that's just my opinion. But my point in saying that all is all that other music can exist that I don't listen to, like polka and zydeco and country and opera. That can still exist. And bluegrass. Oh, that's horrible. But all that stuff can still exist. I just don't have to participate.
You don't have to participate.
And gay people can exist. Trans people can exist. Just don't participate and leave them the fuck alone. They're not hurting you. And then they make up stories. Dude, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go into that when I'm doing this next week. But man, I have to go into some stuff that people do that is so, and I always have material because of what I watch and what I pay attention to. I always have material. I mean, hopefully I can be as entertaining as I think I'm going to be. And I just hope people can understand where I'm coming from. But I'm coming from a purely realistic point of view where I'm not going to insert any kind of nonsensical, magical, mythical crap into what I say and talk about. I'm approaching everything from a real, practical or pragmatic point of view.
Yep.
And to me, my dad's always told me, if you live your life pragmatically, real practical, you're not going to make too many mistakes. You'll make some because you're human.
Yep.
And people fuck up. But he said, but if you're really practical about things, Like, you got to pay your light bill, and you got to do this. You're not supposed to be there at 2:00 in the morning when you got a family at home, and you're not supposed to be doing this. You're not supposed to be driving when you're drinking. All that kind of stuff. If you're practical about your life, you're not going to make a lot of mistakes. So I try to do that, and of course I fumble just like everybody else does. But I can't complain about shit, bro. I can't complain about nothing. I'm very fortunate to be where I am.
If people want to get in touch with you and want to contact you, how do they contact you?
Oh, you can reach me on Facebook, just my name, Jimmie Ligon, like on the screen. On Instagram, it's the real Jimmie Ligon. And I have a YouTube channel that right now has some old videos from a couple years ago of some video games or something. I'm thinking about taking those out and actually putting some other content on there kind of related to this, but not the same. Maybe even taking the videos that I do here and put them on there so people can watch them on YouTube as well.
Yep.
But you can reach me on there, and it's just my name again. I think it's Jim Ligon on YouTube. I think it's the short version of my name.
Okay.
So look up Jimmie or Jim Ligon. And then, like I said, Instagram is at the real Jimmie Ligon, and Facebook is just Jimmie Ligon. And I don't do Twitter. And that has nothing to do with Elon. I get zero traction on Twitter, and I haven't got any traction on Twitter for years. So it's like me having a damn AR-16.
Yeah.
I don't ever use it. So I took Twitter back to the store and got a refund because I don't use it. It serves me no purpose. Right. So yeah, I'm available on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. And that's the best way to get a hold of me, other than my phone number, but I'm not giving you that. And unless I know you. But you can send me messages on Facebook. I'll answer questions. And please keep it respectful, because I don't have patience for people who just are disrespectful. If you disagree with me, that's fine. But there's ways to do that respectfully, Yeah. And if you can't do that, I won't even argue with you. I'll just block you. Yeah. Because I have no obligation to pay attention to anyone who treats me like I'm less than, because I'm not.
Listen, I tell people, I said, hey, I'm not going to allow you to come and take a shit in my living room, and I'm not going to allow you to shit on my page. So.
Exactly. It's like, if you treat me with respect, I'll treat you with respect. I don't give a crap if you're Muslim or Sikh, or if you're Hindu, or if you're a Jain, or if you're Confucianism, whatever. I don't care. If you treat me with respect, I'll treat you with respect, because I truly, and I want this to be understood, because I never said this the whole show before we leave. I want you guys to understand, being an American who served in the military, you can see my Air Force, and I know my brother Derek was a Navy, so we got that covered up. We're vets. But here's the thing. I took an oath to defend the Constitution of the United States. Not only did I do that, but I also believe that people have the right to worship and do all that stuff, and they also have the right to not do any of it.
Exactly.
So if I'm going to protect your right to take your funky ass to church on Sunday, you're going to protect my right to not participate and go anywhere and watch football on Sundays in my house.
Come on, man.
That's just the way I am, man. It's like, you do you, let me do me, and your rights end where my rights start.
Yep.
So as long as your rights don't intrude on my rights,
we're good.
Knock yourself out, bro. You can do all the Hail Marys and the hallelujahs you want to. Don't care. Just don't tread on me, goddammit. That's just how I have to leave it that way. I respect everybody's right to go to your church, your mosque, your temple, whatever. But yeah, be respectful and understand that I don't participate, and that should be good enough for you. If your faith is that strong, then it doesn't matter what I think.
Yep. So everybody, make sure that you tune in, listen to and watch Jimmie on we're going to do Thursday nights at 7, unless he comes up with a better time, because you're flexible. This is your platform, your show. You tell me when you want to air, and we'll work out that that time. But that's about it, folks. Jimmie Ligon, the new host of Unreligious. He's going to
Hey,
kick
if you
ass.
like me, let me know. If you don't like me, let me know.
He's going to kick ass and take names, and he's all out of ink.
I like that. I'm stealing that. I'm stealing the TMR from you too. That was brilliant. I like that.
I mean, that's my my guardrail, right?
I like the TMR thing. It's very practical. Actually, it's super practical. So there you go.
So,
Well,
Jimmie, go ahead and close us out, man.
well, I just want everybody to keep in mind that I don't hate Christians or any religious people. I hate the idea of Christianity and religion. Here's a surprise. Thought I'd throw this out there because I like being transparent because, like I said, the truth is more interesting than anything. My girlfriend, who we've lived together for almost 8 years, been together for over 8 years, she goes to Catholic Mass every Sunday. She teaches religion class on Wednesdays. She went to Ash Wednesday Mass last night, came home with the little ash thing on her forehead. Guess what? Doesn't matter because she's a good person. She grew up Catholic, and we knew that about each other. She knew I was atheist before we got together. So just keep that in mind when you're dealing with other people out here that disagree with you. Sometimes that shit don't matter.
That's right.
You know, it doesn't matter to me that she's religious. It matters to me that she's a good person, that she is my ride or die, and she treats me with respect, and I treat her with respect, and we have a good time together. That's what matters. That extra shit, to me, that's like her hobby is going to church. My hobby is playing video games, making beats, and watching sports on TV. There you go. And talking shit about religion. But, you know, and you know what's funny, Derek? Me and Eva have never had an argument about religion ever.
That's
not even close. Because we don't think it's important to have that. We know where we stand, and this is all good.
That's what's up.
Yeah. But anyway, so just remember that, people. Treat everybody with respect. Understand that no one's going to think like you. Or sometimes they will, but you got to let people be who they are. As long as they're not hurting you or anyone else, y'all be good to each other. So thank you very much, Derek, for this opportunity. I hope I do well by it, and I want to make you proud. So you gave me the opportunity.
You're going to be fine. If I didn't believe in you, we wouldn't be talking.
Well, you my man. I want y'all to know I made myself a new friend who lives in Oklahoma. We need to talk about that, by the way. And why you live in Oklahoma. But anyway, I do appreciate everything that Derek has done for me. He's a really sweet dude, and he's one of the nicest people I've met on the internet, because it's so hard to meet good people, especially when you get over a certain age. It's just really hard to make friends. So I do appreciate your friendship. I really do.
When you say nice and Derek in the same sentence, there are some people out there that are trying to throw holy water at the screen right now. You know,
well,
for the blasphemy.
Yeah, that's because their perspective is their perspective. I'll just leave it at that. But thanks a lot, Derek.
Well, make sure you guys tune in tomorrow night when me and Aaron Thomason will be in the saddle for Freeology. And like I said, you know, we're gonna we always have fun. We have fun, and that's the big thing that guys. I want to say this before we go, that in listening to Jimmie and interacting with him, prepare to have fun, because that's what it's going to be. It's going to be as much fun as we had tonight. It's going to be fun. He's a fun guy, and by that I don't mean that he's a mushroom. He's a fun guy, not a fun guy.
I'll probably pop in tomorrow night too.
Would love to have you, man. Love to have you. So until the next time, folks, peace and hair grease. Thank you for attending our TED Talk, and we will see you a week from tonight.
Peace.